Welcome to Capricorn season, which is running from December 22nd to January 19th, 2025. Now, every year, the specific dates of each astrological season actually change. And in my Astrology Academy, I'll be teaching you how to find and track exactly when the planets are doing what. But this year, those are the dates of Capricorn season. They roughly do stay within the same dates. So as long as you remember, Capricorn season is late December to late January, that's pretty much all you need to know. So this episode, we are going to be exploring the themes of Capricorn season and how the energy shifts as we move into the next year. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into all of the things that are happening next year, but essentially our four outermost planets, that's Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are moving into fire and air signs together, which is marking the start of a huge new cycle for the collective. Now, I've made a free guide that was released 1 or 2 weeks ago. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, I will link it in the episode description and notes. And if you love your history, I also hosted an 80-minute workshop where we went deep into the historical patterns of the planetary movements that we are going to see next year and what we can expect moving into this new chapter. So these four outer planets, because they move so slowly, it's not just going to be about changes that are happening next year. This is a huge template change. It is going to set the stage for what is coming even up to the next decade plus. So both the free guide and the workshop are available now until the end of January. So make sure you go and grab them. And also, if you want my 2025 astrology calendar that has the exact times and descriptions of major transits, it's a calendar that you can add straight into your own Google Calendar. So if you're a bit lazy like me, you can just check the transits with a click. If you want all the tools to live and work in alignment with astrology, check out our Cosmic Sanctuary membership for all the tools there. So let's get into Capricorn season. So we've moved from Sag into Cap season. Sagittarius season was very jovial, it was fun, it carried this optimistic energy, and now Capricorn season is about the work. We're in serious mode now. So think about New Year's resolutions, right? That is such a Capricorn thing to be like, okay, a new year is coming, a new start is coming. What do I want to work on? So we're moving from the spirit of the holiday season into the focus that comes with a new beginning, a new year. And also on that note, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'm not sure when you're going to tune in, so this might be early or it might be a little bit later. So Capricorn is ruled by the planet of Saturn, and Saturn represents restrictions. It is discipline, it is limits, it is karma, it represents challenges, our long-term goals, work, purpose, and personally for each one of us, it represents our life lesson. By the way, if you, like me, have your Saturn in Aries, we are starting our Saturn return this upcoming year. If you have Saturn in Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, you are also starting a Saturn cycle in 2025. Now, we can think of Saturn as the school principal who comes in to check your work or who's in charge of holding your final exam before you graduate. Now, if you've been slacking off, if you've been trying to find a shortcut, or if you just haven't really been paying attention or doing your homework, it is going to show in your results and you're going to struggle a little bit to catch up, right? But if you've been doing the work, the exam is still going to be challenging, but you will see the rewards of all the hard work and all the hours of studying that you've put into your work and into school. So Saturn energy, Capricorn energy rewards commitment, consistency. It's about doing the work and doing it right. I want you to also think about Capricorn as the mountain goat. Now, traditionally, it was represented by the sea goat, and in the Astrology Academy, we talk about the myths of where that came from. But for modernity's sake, let's just go with the mountain goat imagery. So a mountain goat, as it climbs the mountain, it can't climb a mountain in one leap or in one step, right? It has to take one step at a time to get to the top of such a steep mountainside. And it has to make sure every single step it takes is solid. The rock is not just going to crumble under their feet and they're not going to essentially like fall to their death. So that is, in essence, Capricorn energy and what this season asks you to focus on. Are you taking the necessary steps towards your long-term vision? Or are you maybe taking unnecessary steps right now that are actually moving you away from your goals or keeping you busy, but kind of just circling in the one spot and staying in the one spot? Now, with that being said, Capricorn is known for being a workaholic. That is most definitely a shadow side or an unhealthy embodiment of Capricorn energy. It is this tunnel vision, having your blinders on, going and going and going, working and working and working until you reach your goal, and then straight away moving on to the next goal. So make sure you are balancing this with a dose of celebration and actually reflecting on and commending yourself and giving yourself a pat on the back for what you have achieved throughout this year. Because again, with Capricorn energy, we are looking at long-term things. It's not just, in the past 2 weeks. It's actually like in looking back through an extended time period, what have you achieved? No matter how small it is or it might seem to you, actually give yourself the time to celebrate it. And with these small wins or big wins, it might not be quote unquote successful in terms of material gain or what society considers successful. This season is also about redefining what that success and what wealth truly mean to you. So as an example for me personally, one of my biggest accomplishments this year is how much my relationship with myself has improved, especially in terms of actually learning how to rest and relax and receive and recover from burnout. Now, I am also a Cap rising, so this workaholic mode is like second nature to me, which is why I need to consciously balance it and take myself out of that workaholic mode. So that is not monetary in any sense. That really has something to do with my business, although my relationship with myself definitely does influence my business. But that is one of those things where, if our perception or our perspective on success is limited to money and how much revenue you're bringing in or what position you hold in your career, like those are all kind of empty things, if you will, right? Or not empty, but those are all limited to one definition of success. So you want to be thinking more in a more expanded perspective. What else has been a success to you? Is it the fact that maybe you've started setting boundaries? Is it the fact that maybe you've started doing some shadow work and looking into your stories and into your patterns and into your belief systems? Is it the fact that maybe you went to therapy this year, right? No matter how small it is, actually celebrate those wins and see them as stepping stones to getting you to where you are now and potentially helping you to move to whatever goals you want to reach in the future. Now, when it comes to work, purpose is a key word here. So in the same vein as redefining what success means to you, also consider, what are you working towards? What are you working for? Because Capricorn energy wants to serve. It is a cardinal sign, which means it wants to lead, it wants to do something, it wants to help. But the way that we are socialized and conditioned, a lot of that, again, revolves around money and material things, material gain. And a byproduct or like an implicit result of that is that we then attach our sense of worth to how much money we make, or how much money our business is bringing in, or how many followers we have, or how many things we own. Now, if that is the relationship that you want to have with your self-worth, that is your choice. But if you're in my world and you're listening in right now, that is probably not what you want. Not that money and those things are not important, because they are, but that's not what we want to be building our entire sense of worth on. So as you're in this void space between one year and the next, between 2024 and 2025, think about what your vision for your life is. Not just monetary, not just career-wise, but in all aspects of your life. So here is a good question to journal about and reflect on. After you die, what do you want to be remembered for, publicly and privately? And what legacy do you want to leave behind? So that is quite a big question. It doesn't have a right or wrong answer. It doesn't have a specific answer. It can be a broad answer, like I want to be remembered for helping people. I want to be remembered for being kind. It is a big question, but it really helps you move past the noise and the stress of solely focusing on money and career, to really think about the core of what you want to do and who you want to be. That core piece is nowhere near as likely to change as much as the way that you want to express it will. And by the way that you express it, that can be through a career path. So as a side kind of tangent, I've talked a lot about purpose, but with Capricorn energy being really closely tied to work and purpose and career, it's really important that you don't conflate purpose with career. They are two separate things. A career is simply one option you have or one way of expressing what you want your purpose to be. If you put the things together and you equate them with each other, that gets you so stressed and so indecisive. So free yourself from that way of thinking and see your career as simply one way of expressing and acting on your purpose. And that can change as we grow. Our purpose is not likely to change that much. At its core, we all want to be helping people in some way. We all want to be serving the world or our communities or the collective in some way. But the way we want to do that is going to change, and that is okay. So finally, I want to talk about commitment, because that is also a huge theme for this season. So if you reflect back on this year, on 2024, what have you promised yourself? Where have you followed through and committed? And where have you maybe dropped the ball? Now, this is a no judgment zone. So you have to, this is not about judging yourself and being like, oh my God, I said I would do this, but I didn't. And I, none of that. This is a practice in observing so that you can then understand the stories or the patterns around that better. And I'm a Gemini sun, so I'm flaky with a lot of things. And if you're like me, if you have a lot of mutable energy in your chart, or you just find yourself feeling really easily scattered and unable to focus, and you're like trying to force yourself to just be focused, you might need to actually create an avenue in your life where you can be scattered and it won't affect the things that you need to be focused in. So as an example, for me, right now, I think I have like 7 books that I'm in the middle of reading, and I have a bunch of other tasks, or not tasks, but like things that I want to learn. I have all the resources, all the materials. I just haven't really done it yet because sometimes I feel like it, sometimes I don't, and sometimes I forget about it altogether. But I don't give myself a deadline for finishing my books. I don't limit myself or feel like I need to finish one book before I can read the next. I need to read however many chapters. I will read when I feel like it and whenever I remember that I'm in the middle of reading this book. So allowing yourself an avenue to be scattered in, to let out that scattered energy, instead of trying to just force yourself to not be scattered at all, you might find that is a really helpful way to kind of manage that. There could also be the possibility that you had way too many things that you wanted to commit to and change and stay consistent with, and it just became too overwhelming. And personally, I definitely have a tendency to do that as well. So one thing that I'm implementing in 2025, and you can take this from me as well, I am just going to implement or change or shift one thing, one habit, one pattern every single month. I'm just going to commit to one thing, one change or one new pattern. And one thing per month doesn't sound like a lot. It's like, oh, like, really, like only, but by the end of the year, that is 12 habits or 12 patterns that you've changed. Plus, in doing it this way, you actually give your system enough time to adapt. And again, think about it not just from a limited perspective of career or business, but your whole life. Are there any patterns or are there any habits to do with your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your energetic health, your emotional health? All of these different realms that no matter how much money you have, if you're not balanced or healthy in these, you are not going to feel fulfilled or happy. So again, not saying that career and money and business is not a big sector of life, because it definitely is, especially because we need money to survive in this world. But in terms of patterns and habits, think a little bit wider. Now, doing just one thing per month is way better than trying to change 50 things in your life in one go. Because when you do that, not only is your system overwhelmed, but when you eventually, inevitably, go back to exactly the way things were, this entire process reaffirms in your mind that I can't change the pattern. I can't do that. I never end up following through with things. I can't I can't hold my word to myself. And at its core, it's a story of I cannot trust myself. And that then becomes wrapped up in bigger stories of the fear of failure, or imposter syndrome, or self-doubt, self-sabotage, or quitting things really easily. So there's quite a bigger insidious cycle that can happen there. So this season essentially is a serious season. It's about facing the bigger, harder questions, facing any responsibilities that you have avoided, or you maybe have swept under the rug, or you've been like, that's really hard, I don't really want to look at that right now. This is going to be the season where the energy is supportive for you to really work through that. So we've had our fun, and now it's time to put our head down and plan and strategize. So with that being said, let's take a look at what the planets are doing over the next month. So we actually end the year on a new moon. It's going to be in Capricorn, and we have Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet, supporting the new moon. So this is happening on December 31st for those of you in Australia like me, or in New Zealand. In the US and in Europe, I believe it will be on the 30th, so like nighttime. But for those of us, in Australia and New Zealand, it's going to happen on the 31st in the morning for us. So the fact that Saturn is supporting this new moon is kind of really ironic in a way, because this really emphasizes the themes and the energy of Capricorn. And ending the year on a new moon as well, it's really indicative of a new beginning coming, and it puts a bigger emphasis on the fact that we are stepping into a new year in the Gregorian calendar. So during this next month, Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus continue their retrogrades. Mars is actually going to be retrograding back into Cancer about a week into January. And as it retrogrades, it will come back into the opposition with Pluto. Now, we first experienced and felt that Mars opposite Pluto energy back in the end of October and moving into November. And we talked about this in the Scorpio season episode. So if you want a deeper dive, you can go back and check that out. We are continuing into this opposition until about mid-January. So oppositions always require dialogue. And with Mars and Pluto, these are the two planets that have traditionally and also modernly, is that a word? I don't know. Traditionally, and in terms of modern astrology, they are Scorpio's rulers. So this is very deep, intense energy here. And there can be themes of power dynamics coming into play. On a collective scale, we can see this with, nations, with systems, with this kind of power struggle in a way, because Mars tends to bring this impulsive, activating, escalating energy into the mix. Pluto also carries secrets, and it's all about transformation as well. So it's definitely a tense aspect there. Now, the Cancer full moon, which is happening mid-January, is going to be next to this Mars-Pluto opposition. So it's going to really kind of emphasize this opposition here. Until the end of the year, though, we have Saturn squaring Jupiter. So Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in a tense aspect with each other. Now, Saturn is all about responsibilities. It is about maturity. It is the earthly to-do list that we have. It is about working, right? Jupiter is about having fun. It's about indulging. So, and also if you want to learn more about Jupiter, listen to the last episode on Sag season where we go into Jupiter's kind of energies and themes. So this tension between Saturn and Jupiter is kind of like a tug of war between our responsibilities and the things that we have to do to get to our long-term goals versus I just want to have fun right now. I just want to enjoy life right now. And this is why it is so important to plan and to ground into your long-term goals so you can actually find a balance here. Because without Saturn's disciplines and boundary and plan and strategy, Jupiter can easily overindulge and go overboard and overcommit to things. And overspend as well. And without Jupiter's kind of zest for life, Saturn can overwork. It can burn out really easily. It doesn't really know how to have fun. So there needs to be this dynamic between the two, and you need to, it's a time for you to really reflect on, have you been in one extreme too much? How can you balance it out with the other? Now, the North Node also moves back into Pisces from Aries around early mid-January. And the nodes actually move backwards. So unlike the rest of the planets, which are all moving forwards in terms of the signs, the nodes actually move backwards. So we're moving into a Pisces Virgo dynamic with the North and South nodes. And so this is all about grounding and actualizing our bigger vision and our dreams for life. This is a very strong manifesting polarity that we're entering here. So this is all about being balanced again, so that we're not purely daydreaming and fantasizing, which is in the extreme of Pisces, where we're just, visualizing and imagining things, but not taking any action. And we're also not in the other extreme of Virgo, where we are doing things and we're staying busy, but we don't have a bigger vision to focus on. We don't have a bigger vision so that our actions are taking us nowhere, or our actions are taking us in a million different directions and we just feel lost but stressed. So there is a big theme of balance whenever we're talking about the nodes, but for this season in particular. So all in all, it is a little bit of a tense start to the new year, but one thing is for certain, change is coming, and a lot of it is coming. And I would say if there was one word to describe the theme of 2025, it would be change. So make sure you, again, grab my free guide for next year's shifts and energies. I will link it in the description below. The 2025 workshop also goes into how to actually navigate this change and navigate the fear of the unknown as we step into all of these changes. So if you're honestly like me and you're prone to feeling really anxious or you're easily overwhelmed, the workshop gives you tips to manage this on a personal level, on a collective level, as well as on a level of like media and the internet and social media. The workshop also grounds you in the patterns of these planetary movements so that you can feel empowered to better accept the changes that are coming. Now, finally, if you would like to have the tools to live and work in alignment with the planets and also have a safe space to explore astrology and just our human experience in a broader sense, our Cosmic Sanctuary membership is the place for it. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, whether that is early or belated, and I will see you next episode.